What drives a mother to walk away from her own child? What ambition burns so bright that it blinds someone to the love of their family? Today, we're diving into the heartbreaking story of a woman who thought she could have it all, but discovered too late that some choices can never be undone. This isn't just about career success or family sacrifice. This is about the moment when everything she thought mattered crumbled in her hands, and the devastating realization that the people she left behind had moved on without her. Before we begin the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Please subscribe to my channel for more sweet videos like this. Let the story continue. Sarah stood in the doorway of what used to be her home, her expensive designer heels clicking against the wooden floor. The house was empty now. No furniture, no pictures on the walls, no toys scattered around, just empty rooms that echoed with every step she took. Her hands shook as she held a crumpled piece of paper. It was a letter from her husband, Mark. The words on it made her heart feel like it was breaking into a million pieces. Sarah, we waited for you for 3 years. Emma asked for her mommy every single night. I told her you were working, that you loved her, that you would come back, but you never did. We can't wait anymore. We're moving far away where Emma can have a fresh start. Don't try to find us. You made your choice. Sarah fell to her knees right there in the empty living room. She was now the most successful businesswoman in the entire city. She had more money than she ever dreamed of. People knew her name everywhere she went. She had everything she thought she wanted. But her daughter was gone. Her husband was gone. And it was all her fault. Hot tears rolled down her cheeks as she remembered the last time she saw Emma. Her little girl had been only 5 years old, standing at the window in her pink pajamas with tears in her eyes. Emma had pressed her tiny hands against the glass and said, "Mommy, please don't go to work today. Please stay with me." Sarah had been in such a hurry that morning. She had an important meeting that could change everything for her business. She barely looked at Emma as she grabbed her briefcase and rushed out the door. "Mommy has to work, sweetheart. We'll play later," she had called over her shoulder. But later never came. That was 3 years ago, and Sarah never played with Emma again. Now, as she knelt on the cold floor of the empty house, Sarah realized something that made her stomach feel sick. She couldn't even remember what Emma looked like now. Was her hair still curly? Did she still have that little gap between her front teeth? Did she still love strawberry ice cream? Sarah didn't know. She had missed everything. She pulled out her phone with trembling fingers and scrolled through her photos. Business meetings, award ceremonies, fancy dinners with important people. But there were no pictures of Emma, no pictures of Mark. She had been so busy taking pictures of her success that she forgot to take pictures of her family. The silence in the house was so loud it hurt her ears. She remembered how this place used to be full of life. Emma would run around giggling while Mark chased her, pretending to be a monster. The kitchen always smelled like cookies because Mark loved to bake with Emma on Sunday mornings. The living room was always messy with Emma's art projects spread everywhere. Now, it was just nothing. Sarah stood up slowly and walked to Emma's old bedroom. The walls still had marks where Emma's princess stickers used to be. Sarah could almost hear the echo of Emma's little voice singing her favorite lullaby. She used to sing it every night before bed. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are." "What have I done?" Sarah whispered to the empty room. She thought about all the times Emma had begged her to stay home, all the times Mark had asked her to come to Emma's school plays or birthday parties. All the times they had eaten dinner without her because she was working late again. Sarah had always told herself it was for them. She was working so hard to give Emma and Mark a better life. She wanted to buy Emma the best toys, the nicest clothes, and send her to the best schools. She wanted to buy Mark the car he had always dreamed of. But what Emma really wanted was just her mommy to be there. What Mark really wanted was just for his wife to come home. And Sarah had been too blind to see it. She walked back to the living room and sat down on the floor where the couch used to be. This was where Emma took her first steps. This was where they used to have movie nights, all cuddled together under a big blanket. This was where Emma would run to Mark and Sarah every Christmas morning to open presents. All those memories felt like they belonged to someone else now. Sarah's phone rang, making her jump. She looked at the screen and saw it was her business partner, Jennifer. "Sarah, great news!" Jennifer's excited voice filled the empty house. "The Peterson deal went through. We're officially the biggest real estate company in the state now. This calls for a celebration." Sarah should have been happy. This was the deal she had worked toward for years. This was her biggest dream coming true. But all she felt was emptiness. "Sarah? Are you there?" Jennifer asked. "Yeah," Sarah said quietly. "I'm here." "You don't sound excited. This is huge, Sarah. We did it. We're on top of the world." "On top of the world." Sarah almost laughed, but it came out as a sob instead. "I have to go," Sarah said, and hung up the phone. She sat there in the silence, thinking about the day she decided to start her own business. Emma had only been 2 years old then. Mark had been so supportive. He said he believed in her dreams and that he would take care of Emma while Sarah built her company. Just for a little while, Sarah had promised him. "Once the business gets going, I'll have more time for family." But the more successful the business became, the more time it demanded. There was always another deal to close, another client to meet, another problem to solve. Sarah kept telling herself that next month would be different. Next month, she would slow down and spend more time at home. But next month never came. Mark started asking her to choose. "Emma needs her mother," he would say. "I need my wife. The business is doing well now. Can't you hire more people to help?" But Sarah was afraid. She was afraid that if she stepped back, even a little bit, everything would fall apart. She was afraid that someone else would steal her success. She was afraid of not being the best. So she chose work. Again and again and again. She missed Emma's first day of school because she had an important meeting. She missed Emma's 5th birthday party because she had to fly to another city for business. She missed Christmas morning because she was working on a big presentation. Each time, Mark's face got a little sadder. Each time, Emma asked fewer questions about when Mommy would come home. And Sarah told herself it was all worth it because she was building something amazing. But now, sitting in this empty house, Sarah finally understood the truth. She hadn't built something amazing. She had destroyed something amazing. She had torn apart the most precious thing in the world, her family. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, her heart jumped. Maybe it was Mark. Maybe he had changed his mind. Maybe Emma wanted to talk to her. But it was just Jennifer again. "Meet us at the fancy restaurant downtown. The whole team wants to celebrate with you." Sarah stared at the message for a long time. 3 years ago, getting that text would have made her so happy. She would have rushed to get dressed in her best outfit and gone to celebrate with people who admired her success. But now, all she wanted was to hear Emma call her Mommy one more time. She wanted to tuck Emma into bed and sing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" with her. She wanted to sit on the couch with Mark and watch their favorite TV show together. She wanted to be a family again. But it was too late. Sarah stood up and walked to the kitchen. This was where Mark used to make pancakes every Saturday morning. Emma would stand on a little stool next to him, trying to help flip them. Most of the time, the pancakes ended up on the floor, but Mark and Emma would just laugh and make more. Sarah was always too busy to join them. She would grab a cup of coffee and rush off to work, even on Saturdays. "Work can wait," Mark used to say. "Emma won't be little forever." But Sarah never listened. Now, Emma wasn't little anymore. She was 8 years old, and Sarah had missed almost half of her life. Sarah opened the kitchen cabinets, even though she knew they would be empty. Mark had taken everything. He had packed up their entire life and moved away. Somewhere Sarah would never find them. Somewhere Emma could grow up without wondering why her mommy never came home. In the very back of one cabinet, Sarah found something that made her gasp. It was a drawing that Emma had made when she was 4 years old. The paper was wrinkled and faded, but Sarah could still see what Emma had drawn. It was a family, a tall stick figure with long hair that said, "Mummy," underneath. A shorter stick figure with short hair that said, "Daddy," and a tiny stick figure in the middle that said, "Me." All three stick figures were holding hands, and there were big smiley faces on all of them. At the top of the paper, Emma had written in her messy little kid handwriting, "My family, I love you." Sarah's heart felt like it was being squeezed by a giant hand. She held the drawing against her chest and cried harder than she had ever cried in her life. This drawing was from back when Emma still believed that her mommy loved her more than work, back when Emma still thought they were a happy family, back when there was still time to fix everything. But Sarah had thrown away that time. She had wasted it in meeting rooms and office buildings, chasing success while her real treasure slipped away. The sun was starting to set, and the empty house was getting dark. Sarah didn't bother turning on the lights. She just sat on the kitchen floor, holding Emma's drawing and thinking about all the moments she would never get back. She thought about the day Emma lost her first tooth. Mark had called Sarah at work to tell her, but Sarah was in the middle of an important call. "That's nice, honey," she had said quickly. "I'll talk to you later." She never called back to hear about how excited Emma was or how she put the tooth under her pillow for the tooth fairy. She thought about the time Emma got sick with a fever and kept asking for her mommy. Mark had to take care of Emma all by himself while Sarah was away on a business trip. Emma cried for 3 days, asking when mommy would come home to make her feel better. She thought about Emma's school play, where Emma played a flower in the garden. Mark had recorded it on his phone and sent it to Sarah, but Sarah was too busy to watch it. The video was probably still on her phone somewhere, unwatched. All these memories felt like knives in Sarah's heart. Every single one was a moment when she could have chosen differently. Every single one was a chance to be the mother Emma deserved. But Sarah had chosen work instead. Every single time. Now, as darkness filled the empty house, Sarah made a decision that surprised even herself. She was going to find them. She didn't care how long it took or how much money she had to spend. She was going to find Mark and Emma and beg them to forgive her. She was going to tell Emma that she was sorry for missing everything important. She was going to tell Mark that she understood now why he left. She was going to promise that things would be different. Sarah stood up, still holding Emma's drawing. She walked toward the front door, ready to start the biggest and most important search of her life. But as she reached for the door handle, she heard something that made her freeze. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Sarah's heart started beating so fast she thought it might explode. Could it be Mark? Could it be Emma? Had they come back? She ran to the window and peeked through the curtains. In the darkness, she could see the shape of a familiar car. It was Mark's old blue sedan, the one Sarah had always wanted him to replace with something fancier. The car doors opened, and 2 figures got out. Even in the dark, Sarah knew exactly who they were. Mark looked older, more tired than she remembered. And next to him was a little girl with curly hair that Sarah recognized instantly, even though Emma was so much taller now. They were back. But as Sarah watched them walking toward the house, she noticed something that made her blood turn cold. They weren't walking like people who were coming home. They were walking like people who were saying goodbye. Sarah's hands pressed against the cold window as she watched Mark and Emma walk slowly up the front steps. Her heart was pounding so loud she could hear it in her ears. This was her chance. This was the moment she had been praying for. But something was wrong. Mark was carrying a small cardboard box, and Emma was holding what looked like a stuffed animal. They weren't carrying suitcases or bags like people who were moving back home. They looked like people who were visiting a grave. Sarah wanted to run to the door and throw it open. She wanted to scream, "I'm sorry," and hug Emma until her arms hurt. But something made her stay hidden behind the curtain, watching. Mark reached the front door and pulled out a key. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. He still had a key. Maybe that meant something. Maybe that meant there was still hope. The door opened, and Mark stepped inside with Emma right behind him. Sarah could hear their footsteps echoing in the empty house. She quickly moved away from the window and hid behind the kitchen wall, her heart beating like a drum. "It's so empty, Daddy." Emma's voice drifted through the house. Sarah had forgotten how sweet her daughter's voice sounded. It was higher now, more grown-up than Sarah remembered. "I know, sweetheart," Mark replied softly. "Mommy took all her things when she moved away." Sarah's heart sank. Mark thought she had moved away. He didn't know she had been living in a tiny apartment downtown, spending every night working and every morning wishing she could come home. "Why did Mommy leave us, Daddy?" Emma asked. The question hit Sarah like a punch to the stomach. There was a long pause. Sarah could hear Mark's footsteps moving around the living room. "Sometimes adults make mistakes, Emma," Mark finally said. "Sometimes they think they want something so badly that they forget about the things that are really important." "But didn't Mommy love us?" Sarah put her hand over her mouth to stop herself from crying out loud. She wanted to run into that room and tell Emma that yes, Mommy loved her more than anything in the whole world. But she had been so stupid, so blind, that she forgot how to show it. "Your Mommy loved us," Mark said quietly, "but she loved other things more." Those words felt like a knife twisting in Sarah's chest. Because Mark was right. She had loved Emma and Mark, but she had loved success more. She had loved money more. She had loved being important more. "I brought Mr. Whiskers," Emma said. Sarah's heart jumped. Mr. Whiskers was Emma's favorite stuffed rabbit, the one Sarah had bought for Emma's second birthday, the only toy Sarah had ever picked out herself. "That's good, sweetheart. Mr. Whiskers belonged here. Are we really never coming back, Daddy?" "No, Emma. We're never coming back. Tomorrow we get on the airplane to our new home in Oregon. Uncle Tom found Daddy a good job there, and you'll have new friends and a new school." Oregon! They were moving to Oregon. That was 3,000 miles away. Sarah felt like the floor was disappearing under her feet. "But what if Mommy comes back and we're not here?" Emma asked. "What if she wants to find us?" Sarah held her breath, waiting for Mark's answer. "If Mommy had wanted to find us, she would have found us a long time ago, Emma. She knows where we live. She has our phone number. But she never called. She never came home. She never even sent you a birthday card." Sarah's knees went weak. She had sent birthday cards. She had sent them to Mark's office because she didn't know if they still lived in the house. But Mark worked from home now. She had forgotten that. He never got the cards. She had called their house phone, but it was always disconnected because Mark couldn't afford to pay the bills after Sarah stopped sending money. She had been sending money to the wrong bank account, the old one they used to share. She didn't know Mark had to open a new account when Sarah left. Everything she had tried to do to reach them had failed, and they thought she didn't care at all. "I miss Mommy," Emma whispered. Sarah's heart broke into a million pieces. She wanted to run to Emma right now and tell her that Mommy missed her too, that Mommy thought about her every single day, that Mommy was sorry for everything. But she couldn't move. She was frozen by shame and fear. "I know you do, sweetheart. I miss her too. Do you think Mommy misses us?" There was another long pause. "I don't know, Emma. I hope she does." Sarah was crying so hard now that she had to bite her hand to keep quiet. Of course she missed them. She missed them so much it felt like she was dying inside every day. "Daddy, can we leave Mr. Whiskers here? So if Mommy comes back, she'll know we were thinking about her?" Sarah heard Mark's footsteps stop. "Are you sure, Emma? You love Mr. Whiskers." "I know. But maybe Mommy is lonely too. Maybe Mr. Whiskers can keep her company until we see her again." "Emma." Mark's voice sounded like he was crying too. "We're not going to see Mommy again. You understand that, right?" "I know, Daddy. But maybe someday." Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She was about to step out from behind the wall when she heard Mark's voice again, and it stopped her cold. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you about Mommy. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Sarah's blood turned to ice. What was Mark going to tell Emma? "What is it, Daddy?" "The reason Mommy left wasn't just because of work. The reason she left was because she didn't want to be a mommy anymore." "What do you mean?" Sarah's whole world started spinning. That wasn't true. That couldn't be true. I mean that being a mommy was too hard for her. She wanted to do other things instead. Important things that didn't include taking care of you. "But I was good, Daddy. I was a good girl. Oh, sweetheart. Sarah could hear Mark hugging Emma. You were the best little girl in the whole world. This had nothing to do with you. This was about Mommy choosing what she wanted more. Sarah wanted to scream. She wanted to run into that room and tell them the truth. She hadn't left because she didn't want to be a mother. She had left because she thought she was being a good mother by working hard for their future. But how could she explain that to an 8-year-old? How could she make Emma understand that Mommy had made the biggest mistake of her life? I tried to be the best daddy and mommy I could be, Mark continued. But it was hard doing it all by myself. That's why we have to move away. I found a place where I can take better care of you. You're the best daddy in the world, Emma said, and you didn't leave me. I will never leave you, Emma. Never. Those words hit Sarah like lightning. Mark was promising Emma the one thing Sarah had broken, that a parent would never leave their child. Sarah heard their footsteps moving toward the stairs. They were going up to Emma's old room. Can we look at my room one more time, Daddy? Of course, sweetheart. Sarah waited until she heard them going upstairs. Then she crept out from behind the kitchen wall. She had to see them. She had to be close to Emma, even if Emma didn't know she was there. She tiptoed to the bottom of the stairs and listened. She could hear Emma's voice coming from her old bedroom. I remember when Mommy painted these walls pink for me. She said pink was for princesses. Sarah remembered that day. Emma had been 3 years old, and Sarah had taken a whole Saturday off work to paint Emma's room. They had gotten pink paint all over themselves and laughed until their stomachs hurt. It was one of the last good days they had together. She used to read me stories in here, Emma continued. She did funny voices for all the characters. Sarah had forgotten about the bedtime stories. She used to love doing different voices. A squeaky voice for the mouse, a deep voice for the bear, a scary voice for the dragon. Emma would giggle and ask her to do the voices again and again. When had she stopped reading bedtime stories? When had work become more important than tucking Emma into bed? And remember when I was scared of monsters in my closet? Mommy checked every night to make sure no monsters were hiding. Sarah remembered. Emma had gone through a phase where she was afraid of monsters. Every night, Sarah would open the closet door and say, "All clear, no monsters here." Then she would tuck Emma in and kiss her forehead. But then Sarah started coming home after Emma was already asleep. Mark took over bedtime duty, and Sarah missed all those sweet moments. Daddy, do you think Mommy remembers those things too? Sarah held her breath. I think she does, Emma. I think Mommy remembers all the good times we had. Then why didn't she want more good times with us? Sarah closed her eyes. That was the question she asked herself every single day. Why had she thrown away all those precious moments for meetings and phone calls and emails? Sometimes people make choices that don't make sense, Emma. Sometimes they think they're doing the right thing, but they're really doing the wrong thing. Emma was quiet for a moment. Daddy, I wrote Mommy a letter. Can we leave it here with Mr. Whiskers? Of course, sweetheart. What does it say? It says that I forgive her, and that I hope she's happy, and that I love her even though she didn't love me enough to stay. Sarah collapsed onto the bottom step of the stairs. Emma had written her a letter. Emma, who was only 8 years old, was being more grown up and forgiving than Sarah had ever been. That's a beautiful letter, Emma. Do you forgive Mommy too, Daddy? There was a long pause. I'm trying to, sweetheart. I'm trying to forgive her so that we can be happy in our new home. Sarah heard them coming back downstairs. She quickly hid behind the wall again, her heart pounding. They walked into the living room, and Sarah heard Mark putting something down on the floor. It must be the box he had brought in. There, Mark said. Mr. Whiskers is right in the middle of the room where Mommy will see him if she ever comes back. And your letter is right next to him. Thank you, Daddy. Are you ready to go, Emma? We have to finish packing for our flight tomorrow. I'm ready. Sarah heard their footsteps walking toward the front door. This was it. They were leaving forever. If she didn't do something right now, she would never see Emma again. She stepped out from behind the wall. Wait, she said. Mark and Emma froze at the front door. Emma spun around, and Sarah saw her daughter's face for the first time in 3 years. Emma was beautiful. She was tall and had lost all her baby fat. Her curly hair was longer now, and her eyes were bigger and sadder than Sarah remembered. But she was still Emma. She was still Sarah's little girl. "Mommy?" Emma whispered. Mark stepped in front of Emma like he was protecting her. His face was hard and angry. "What are you doing here, Sarah?" I live here. I mean, I used to live here. I came back and found your letter and—" "You don't live here anymore," Mark said coldly. "You gave up the right to live here when you abandoned us." "Mark, please. I know I made mistakes, but—" "Mistakes?" Mark's voice got louder. "You call leaving your family a mistake? You call choosing money over your daughter a mistake?" Emma was staring at Sarah with wide eyes. She looked scared and confused. "I never chose money over Emma," Sarah said desperately. "I was working for you. For both of you. I wanted to give you a better life." "We didn't want a better life," Mark shot back. "We wanted you. We wanted a wife and mother who came home at night. We wanted someone who cared more about us than about being successful. I did care about you. I do care about you." "Then where were you?" Mark's eyes were filling with tears now. "Where were you when Emma had nightmares and cried for her mommy? Where were you when she got sick and wanted you to take care of her? Where were you on her birthdays, on Christmas morning, on the first day of school?" Sarah opened her mouth to answer, but no words came out, because the truth was, she had been in offices and conference rooms and business dinners. She had been choosing success over love, over and over again. "Mommy," Emma said quietly. Both Sarah and Mark looked at her. "Why didn't you come home?" Sarah knelt down, so she was at Emma's eye level. Up close, she could see that Emma had a small scar on her chin that hadn't been there before. "How did you get this scar, baby?" Sarah asked, reaching out to touch Emma's face. Emma stepped back, away from Sarah's hand. "I fell off my bike last year," Emma said. "Daddy took me to the hospital and got stitches. Where were you, Mommy?" Sarah's heart sank. Emma had been hurt, and Sarah hadn't even known about it. "I was working, sweetheart. I didn't know you were hurt." "You would have known if you lived with us," Emma said simply. Out of the mouths of babes, Emma, at 8 years old, had just spoken the truth that Sarah had been avoiding for years. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I made terrible choices. I thought I was helping our family, but I was really hurting it. I was hurting you." Emma stared at Sarah for a long moment. "Do you love me, Mommy?" "More than anything in the whole world," Sarah said immediately. "You are the most important thing in my life." "Then why did you leave me?" Sarah's throat felt like it was closing up. How could she explain 3 years of mistakes to a child? "Because I was scared and confused, and I made the wrong choice. I thought work was important, but you are the only important thing. You and Daddy." Emma looked at Mark, then back at Sarah. "It's too late, Mommy." Those 4 words hit Sarah harder than anything Mark had said. "What do you mean, baby?" "I used to wait for you every night. I used to look out the window and watch for your car. I used to ask Daddy when you were coming home." Sarah felt tears running down her cheeks. "But I stopped waiting," Emma continued. "I stopped looking out the window. I stopped asking Daddy about you, because you never came. But I'm here now, Emma. I'm here now, and I want to make up for everything." Emma shook her head sadly. "You can't make up for 3 years, Mommy. You can't make up for missing my whole life." Sarah looked at Mark desperately. "Mark, please, can't we try again? Can't we be a family again?" Mark's face was like stone. "You had 3 years to try again, Sarah. 3 years to pick up the phone. 3 years to come home. 3 years to remember that you had a daughter who needed you." "I sent birthday cards. I called. I tried." "No, you didn't," Mark interrupted. "If you had really tried, you would have found us. You would have come to the house before tonight. You would have done more than just send cards to my old office." Sarah realized he was right. She had tried, but not very hard. She had sent a few cards and made a few phone calls. But when those didn't work, she had given up. She had told herself she tried, but really, she had just done the minimum so she could feel less guilty. "You're right," she admitted. I should have tried harder. I should have done everything to find you. Yes, you should have, Mark said. But you didn't, and now it's too late. Please don't take her away from me, Sarah begged. Please don't move to Oregon. I'll change. I'll be different. I'll quit my job. I'll do anything. Emma stepped forward and looked up at Sarah, with eyes that were way too old for an 8-year-old. Mommy, you can't quit your job for me now. That's not how love works. Sarah stared at her daughter in shock. When had Emma become so wise? Love isn't something you do when it's convenient, Emma continued. Love is something you do every day, even when it's hard, even when work is calling you away, even when other things seem more important. Sarah felt like Emma had just explained something that Sarah, at 35 years old, had never understood. Daddy loves me every day, Emma said. Even when he's tired, even when he's sad, even when money is tight and he has to work extra jobs, he never chooses anything over me. Sarah looked at Mark and saw the truth in Emma's words. Mark's clothes were old and worn. He looked exhausted, but he had stayed. He had chosen Emma every single day for 3 years. While Sarah had been getting rich and famous, Mark had been getting up in the middle of the night when Emma had bad dreams. While Sarah had been at business dinners, Mark had been helping Emma with homework. While Sarah had been traveling the country closing deals, Mark had been taking Emma to the park and teaching her to ride her bike. Mark had been doing the real work of love while Sarah had been chasing fake success. I understand now, Sarah whispered. I understand what I lost. Emma walked over to where she had left Mr. Whiskers and her letter. She picked them up and brought them to Sarah. I want you to have these, Mommy. Sarah took the stuffed rabbit and the folded piece of paper with shaking hands. Mr. Whiskers still smelled like Emma's room, like strawberry shampoo and childhood dreams. She unfolded the letter and read it through her tears. Dear Mommy, Daddy says we are moving far away and you won't be able to find us. I wanted to write you a letter so you know that I don't hate you. I used to be mad at you for leaving me, but now I just feel sad. I hope your work makes you happy since you chose it instead of me. I hope you get everything you wanted. I forgive you for not loving me enough. Maybe you will love some other little girl better than you loved me. I will always remember the good times we had. Like when you painted my room pink, and when you read me stories, and when you checked for monsters in my closet. I love you even though you left me. Your daughter, Emma P.S. Take care of Mr. Whiskers. He gets scared at night. Sarah couldn't breathe. The letter was so full of love and forgiveness that it made her chest ache. Emma was being kinder to Sarah than Sarah deserved. Emma, Sarah choked out, you are perfect. You are the most amazing little girl in the world, and I am so sorry I wasn't smart enough to see that. I know, Mommy. Mark put his hand on Emma's shoulder. We have to go now, Emma. Emma nodded and walked back to Mark. At the front door, she turned around one last time. Goodbye, Mommy. I hope you find what makes you happy. And then they were gone. Sarah stood alone in the empty house, holding Mr. Whiskers and Emma's letter. She could hear Mark's car driving away, taking Emma with it. Taking Emma away forever. Sarah sank to the floor and cried until she couldn't cry anymore. She had lost everything that mattered, and it was all her own fault. But as she sat there in the darkness, holding the stuffed rabbit that smelled like her daughter, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number she had never thought she would call. Hello, Detective Morrison. This is Sarah Williams. I need your help finding someone. I need to find my family, and I need to do it before their plane leaves tomorrow morning. Mrs. Williams, I'd like to help, but if they don't want to be found. They don't know the whole truth, Sarah interrupted. There's something I never told them, something that changes everything, something that proves I never stopped loving them. What kind of something? Sarah took a shaky breath and told the detective the secret she had been keeping for 3 years. The secret that would either bring her family back together or destroy her last chance at redemption forever. But there was no time to think about the consequences now. Emma's plane left in 12 hours, and Sarah had the most important race of her life to run. Detective Morrison arrived at Sarah's house 30 minutes later. He was a tall man with kind eyes who had helped Sarah before, back when she thought someone was trying to steal her business secrets. But tonight, he was helping her with something much more important. Mrs. Williams, you said there's something that changes everything. What is it? Sarah took a deep breath. This was the hardest thing she had ever had to say out loud. For the past 3 years, I've been secretly paying for Emma's medical treatments. Detective Morrison looked confused. Medical treatments? Is Emma sick? Sarah's hands were shaking as she pulled out a thick folder from her briefcase. Inside were hundreds of medical bills, insurance papers, and receipts. Emma has a rare blood condition called aplastic anemia. It means her body doesn't make enough healthy blood cells. Without treatment, she could die. The detective's eyes went wide. And you've been paying for this? Every single treatment, every doctor visit, every medication. Mark doesn't know. The hospital bills go straight to my office, and I pay them immediately. Mark thinks his insurance covers everything, but it doesn't. It only covers about 10%. Sarah spread the papers out on the floor. There were so many bills that they covered the entire living room. Look at this, she said, pointing to a bill from last month. Emma had to stay in the hospital for 5 days. The bill was $47,000. Mark's insurance paid $4,000. I paid the rest. Detective Morrison picked up bill after bill, his face getting more serious with each one. Mrs. Williams, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars. $380. $6,000 to be exact, Sarah said quietly. That's why I couldn't quit working. That's why I had to build my business bigger and bigger. Emma's treatments cost more than most people make in 10 years. The detective sat back on his heels. Does your husband know Emma is sick? He knows she has the condition, but he doesn't know how serious it is. The doctors and I agreed not to tell him the full truth because we didn't want him to worry. We told him it was manageable with simple treatments. But it's not simple, is it? Sarah shook her head, tears starting to fall again. Emma has to have blood transfusions every month. She has to take expensive medications every day. She has to see specialists all over the country. Without these treatments, she would have died 2 years ago. Detective Morrison was quiet for a long moment, looking at all the medical bills. So when you were missing Emma's birthdays and school plays, I was working 18-hour days to pay for her treatments. When I was traveling for business, I was meeting with the best doctors in the country, trying to find new ways to help her. When I was at those fancy dinners Mark hated, I was talking to rich people who might donate money to blood disease research. Sarah picked up a photo from the pile of papers. It showed Emma in a hospital bed, smiling weakly while getting a blood transfusion. This was taken 6 months ago. Mark doesn't even know about this hospital stay. Emma told him she was having a sleepover at her friend's house. I flew back from a business trip and stayed with her all night in the hospital. Why didn't you tell your husband the truth? Sarah's voice broke. Because Mark would have tried to stop me. He would have said we should sell everything we owned to pay for Emma's care. He would have wanted to take care of her himself instead of working. But that wouldn't have been enough money. We needed my business to succeed. We needed every penny I could make. She picked up another paper from the pile. Look at this. This is a bill for an experimental treatment that might cure Emma completely. It costs $200,000, and insurance won't pay for it because it's still being tested. But if it works, Emma could be healthy for the rest of her life. Detective Morrison whistled low. That's a lot of money. I've been saving for it. That's why I've been working so hard lately. I'm almost at $200,000. In 6 more months, Emma could have the treatment that saves her life forever. But now they're moving to Oregon. Sarah nodded miserably. If Emma moves to Oregon, she won't be able to get the same level of care. The doctors who know her condition best are all here. And I won't be able to pay for her treatments anymore because Mark will never let me help once he finds out the truth. Detective Morrison stood up and paced around the room, stepping carefully over the medical bills. Mrs. Williams, why didn't you just tell your family the truth from the beginning? Sarah had asked herself this question 1,000 times. Because I was scared. I was scared that if Mark knew how serious Emma's condition was, he would blame himself. I was scared that if Emma knew she might die, she would give up hope. I was scared that if I told them how much money we needed, they would feel guilty and helpless. So you decided to carry this burden all by yourself. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could work hard enough to pay for everything and still be a good mom and wife. But I couldn't. The sicker Emma got, the more I had to work. The more I worked, the less time I had for family. It became a terrible cycle. Sarah sat down among all the medical bills, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of her secret. Every time Mark accused me of caring more about money than family, I wanted to scream the truth at him. I wanted to tell him that every dollar I made was for Emma, that every business deal I closed was another month of life for our daughter. But you never did. I couldn't, because once I started keeping the secret, it became bigger and bigger. How do you tell your husband that you've been lying to him for 3 years? How do you tell your 8-year-old daughter that she's been fighting for her life while you pretended everything was normal? Detective Morrison sat down across from Sarah. Mrs. Williams, I think you need to tell them tonight. They won't believe me. Mark thinks I'm just making excuses for abandoning them. And even if he does believe me, he'll be so angry that I lied about Emma's condition that he'll never forgive me. Maybe, but if you don't tell them, Emma might not get the treatment she needs. Is your pride worth more than your daughter's life? Sarah looked down at the photo of Emma in the hospital bed. Even sick and weak, Emma was smiling. She was the bravest little girl in the world, and she didn't even know it. You're right. I have to tell them. But first, I need to find them. Do you know which hotel they're staying at? Detective Morrison pulled out his phone. I can find out. Give me their full names and I'll run a search. While the detective made phone calls, Sarah organized all the medical papers into neat piles. She had bills from Children's Hospital, receipts from the pharmacy, letters from specialists, and reports from blood tests. 3 years of her secret life, all spread out on the floor. Her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Jennifer, her business partner again. Sarah, where are you? The whole team is waiting to celebrate. This is the biggest night of our careers. Sarah stared at the message for a long time. 3 years ago, getting that text would have sent her running to the celebration. She would have been so proud to be the center of attention, to have everyone admire her success. But now, sitting surrounded by her daughter's medical bills, Sarah realized something that changed her entire perspective on success. She wasn't successful at all. She was a failure. All the money she had made, all the awards she had won, all the recognition she had received, none of it mattered if she lost Emma. None of it mattered if her daughter grew up thinking her mother didn't love her. Real success wasn't about being the best businesswoman in the city. Real success was about being the mother Emma needed. Real success was about being the wife Mark deserved. And by that measure, Sarah had failed completely. Found them, Detective Morrison said, hanging up his phone. They're at the Airport Inn on Highway 9, room 237. Sarah jumped to her feet. Let's go. Mrs. Williams, wait. You need to think about how you're going to tell them this. This is huge news. Emma finding out she's been sick this whole time, Mark finding out you've been lying to him for 3 years, this could go very badly. Sarah knew he was right, but she also knew that time was running out. Their flight leaves at 6 a.m. It's already midnight. If I don't tell them tonight, I might never get another chance. Detective Morrison helped Sarah gather all the medical papers and put them back in the folder. I'll drive you to the hotel. But Mrs. Williams, you need to be prepared for the possibility that this might not fix everything. Even if they understand why you did what you did, they might still be too hurt to forgive you. Sarah nodded. I know, but I have to try. Emma deserves to know the truth. Mark deserves to know the truth. And if they decide they still want to move to Oregon after they know everything, then at least they'll know that I love them enough to sacrifice everything for them. The drive to the hotel felt like the longest 20 minutes of Sarah's life. She kept rehearsing in her head what she would say, but nothing sounded right. How do you explain 3 years of lies? How do you make someone understand that you were trying to protect them by pushing them away? When they pulled into the hotel parking lot, Sarah could see a light on in room 237. Mark and Emma were still awake. Do you want me to come with you? Detective Morrison asked. Sarah shook her head. This is something I have to do alone. She walked up to the second floor of the hotel, carrying the folder full of medical bills. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold on to it. She stood outside room 237 for a full minute, trying to work up the courage to knock. Inside, she could hear the TV playing quietly. She could hear Mark's voice saying something to Emma, though she couldn't make out the words. Finally, she knocked. The TV went quiet. She heard footsteps walking to the door. Who is it? Mark's voice came through the door. It's me. It's Sarah. Mark, please. I have something to show you. Something that explains everything. There was a long pause. Sarah, go home. Don't make this harder than it already is. Mark, Emma is sick. She's been sick this whole time, and you don't know how sick she really is. She heard the chain lock being undone. The door opened, and Mark stood there in his pajamas, looking confused and angry. What are you talking about? Emma has aplastic anemia. It's serious, Mark. Much more serious than the doctors told you. She could die without proper treatment. Mark's face went white. That's not true. Emma's condition is manageable. The doctors said. The doctors lied to you because I asked them to. I didn't want you to worry. Mark stared at her for a moment, then stepped aside to let her in. Emma was sitting on one of the hotel beds in her pajamas, watching cartoons. When she saw Sarah, her eyes got wide. Mommy? Why are you here? Sarah sat down on the edge of Emma's bed and opened the folder. Emma, sweetheart, there's something Mommy needs to tell you and Daddy. Something very important. Mark sat down on the other bed, looking scared. What's going on, Sarah? Sarah took a deep breath and pulled out the first medical bill. Emma, do you remember when you had to go to the hospital last month for your checkup? Emma nodded. That wasn't just a checkup, baby. You were getting a blood transfusion because your body wasn't making enough healthy blood on its own. Emma looked confused. What's a blood transfusion? Mark leaned forward. Sarah, what are you saying? I'm saying that Emma has been fighting a serious illness for 3 years, and I've been paying for all her treatments without telling you. Sarah spread the medical bills out on the hotel bed. Mark's face went from white to gray as he saw bill after bill with Emma's name on them. $47,000, he read from the top bill. Sarah, our insurance doesn't cover this much. Our insurance barely covers anything, Mark. I've been paying for everything else. Mark picked up bill after bill, his hands shaking. $60,000, $32,000, $28,000. He looked up at Sarah with tears in his eyes. How long has this been going on? 3 years, ever since Emma was diagnosed. Emma looked back and forth between her parents, not understanding what was happening. Am I sick, Mommy? Sarah's heart broke as she looked at her innocent daughter. Yes, baby. You have a condition that makes it hard for your body to make healthy blood. That's why you get tired sometimes. That's why you have to see the doctor so often. Am I going to die? The question hit Sarah like a physical blow. Not if I can help it, Sarah said firmly. There's a new treatment that could make you completely better, but it costs a lot of money, and Mommy has been working very hard to save up for it. Mark was staring at Sarah with an expression she had never seen before. It wasn't anger. It wasn't hurt. It was something much more complicated. You've been paying for all of this by yourself? Every penny. That's why I had to work so much, Mark. That's why I couldn't come home for dinner. That's why I missed Emma's birthday parties and school plays. Every hour I worked was another dollar toward keeping Emma alive. Mark put his head in his hands. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have tried to help, and we couldn't afford for you to stop working too. Because you would have worried yourself sick. Because I thought I could handle it all by myself. Emma crawled over to Sarah and put her small hand on Sarah's arm. Mommy, is that why you left us? To make money for my medicine? Sarah looked into Emma's eyes and saw understanding there. Her 8-year-old daughter was putting the pieces together. Yes, baby, that's exactly why Mommy left. Not because I didn't love you, but because I loved you so much that I would do anything to keep you healthy. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. So when I thought you didn't want to be my mommy anymore, you were really trying to save my life? Sarah nodded, unable to speak. Emma threw her arms around Sarah's neck and hugged her tighter than she had ever hugged anyone. "I'm sorry I thought you didn't love me, Mommy." Sarah hugged Emma back, crying tears of relief and sadness and joy all mixed together. But when she looked over Emma's shoulder at Mark, she saw that his expression had changed again. Now he looked angry. "Sarah, this doesn't change anything." Sarah's heart sank. "What do you mean?" Mark stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot. "Even if everything you're saying is true, it doesn't change the fact that you lied to me for 3 years. It doesn't change the fact that you made me think I was a terrible husband who couldn't provide for his family. Mark, do you know what it's been like?" Mark turned around, and Sarah could see tears streaming down his face. "Do you know what it's been like thinking that my wife left me because I wasn't successful enough? Because I couldn't give her the life she wanted?" Sarah felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "For 3 years I've blamed myself." Mark continued, "I thought if I had been a better husband, if I had made more money, if I had been more ambitious, then maybe you would have stayed. Mark, that's not true. And now you're telling me that the whole time you were secretly taking care of everything? That you were the hero and I was just useless?" Sarah finally understood. Mark wasn't just hurt because she had lied to him. He was hurt because her lies had made him feel worthless. "Mark, you weren't useless. You were taking care of Emma in ways I couldn't. You were being her daddy every single day while I was just sending money." "Just sending money?" Mark laughed bitterly. "Sarah, you've paid almost $400,000 for Emma's care. I've been struggling to pay for groceries." Emma looked back and forth between her parents, her face full of worry. "Are you going to fight now?" Both Sarah and Mark looked at Emma, and Sarah could see that they were scaring her. "No, baby," Sarah said softly. "Daddy and I are just talking about grown-up things." But Mark wasn't done. "Sarah, there's something else. Something you need to know before you think this changes everything." Sarah's blood went cold. "What?" Mark walked over to his suitcase and pulled out a piece of paper. "I got a job offer in Oregon. A really good job, better than anything I could get here. But that's not the real reason we're moving." He handed Sarah the paper. It was a letter from a law firm. "What is this?" "It's from a lawyer, Sarah. I'm filing for divorce." The words hit Sarah like a truck. She had known Mark was angry, but she hadn't realized he had already taken legal action. "Mark, please, now that you know the truth." "The truth doesn't erase 3 years of lies, Sarah. The truth doesn't give me back the time I spent thinking I was a failure. The truth doesn't give Emma back her childhood with her mother." Sarah looked at the divorce papers, and her vision started to blur. "But Emma needs her treatments. If you move to Oregon, how will she get the care she needs?" Mark's face softened slightly. "I've already talked to doctors in Oregon. There's a good children's hospital there. Emma can get treatment there too. But not the experimental treatment. Not the one that could cure her completely." Mark hesitated. "We'll figure something out." "Mark, there is no figuring it out. That treatment is only available here, and it costs $200,000. I'm the only one who can pay for it." "Then maybe Emma will have to live with her condition instead of being cured. Maybe some things are more important than money." Sarah stared at Mark in disbelief. "You would rather Emma stay sick than accept my help?" "I would rather Emma have a father who doesn't feel like a failure every day of his life." Emma had been listening to this whole conversation, and now she spoke up in her small, clear voice. "Daddy, I want to get better." Mark looked at Emma, and Sarah could see his resolve wavering. "I know you do, sweetheart. But it's complicated." "No, it's not," Emma said simply. "If Mommy can make me better, then I want Mommy to make me better. I don't want to be sick anymore." Sarah reached out and took Emma's hand. "I can make you better, Emma. I promise. I have enough money saved, and in 6 months, you could have the treatment that makes you completely healthy." Emma looked at Mark with pleading eyes. "Please, Daddy. I want to be healthy. I want to run and play without getting tired. I want to stop going to the hospital all the time." Mark sat down heavily on the bed, looking defeated. "Emma, if we stay here so you can get the treatment, it means Mommy will be in our lives again. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to risk being hurt again if she chooses work over us? Emma was quiet for a moment, thinking about this very grown-up question. Finally, she said, "Daddy, I think Mommy already chose me. She chose me when she worked so hard to pay for my medicine. She just forgot to tell us about it." Out of the mouths of babes again. Emma had just explained forgiveness in a way that neither Sarah nor Mark had been able to understand. Mark looked at Sarah with an expression that was impossible to read. "Sarah, if we don't move to Oregon, if we give you another chance, things have to be different. Completely different." Sarah's heart leaped with hope. "They will be. I promise they will be. I need specifics, Sarah. Not promises. Specifics." Sarah took a deep breath. This was her one chance to get her family back. "I'll sell my company," she said. Mark's eyes went wide. "What?" "I'll sell my company. I'll use the money to pay for Emma's treatment and to set up a trust fund for her future medical needs. Then I'll find a regular job with regular hours so I can be home every night." "Sarah, your company is your life's work." "No, Mark. You and Emma are my life's work. The company was just a tool to take care of you. But if the tool is keeping me away from what's important, then I don't need the tool anymore." Emma clapped her hands together excitedly. "Does that mean you'll be home for dinner every night, Mommy?" Sarah smiled through her tears. "Every single night, baby. And I'll read you bedtime stories again. And I'll check your closet for monsters. And I'll never ever leave you again." Emma launched herself into Sarah's arms again. But Mark still looked uncertain. "Sarah, even if you sell your company and get a regular job, how do I know you won't get bored? How do I know you won't miss being successful and important?" Sarah looked at Mark and Emma, and suddenly she knew exactly what to say. "Mark, for 3 years, I thought success meant having the biggest company and making the most money. But I was wrong. Success means having a daughter who hugs you and calls you Mommy. Success means having a husband who trusts you and loves you. Success means being home for the people who matter most." She stood up and walked over to Mark. "I don't want to be the most successful businesswoman in the city anymore. I want to be the most successful wife and mother in the world, and I can't do that from an office. I can only do that from home, with you and Emma." Mark stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and took her hand. "Sarah, if we try this again, if we become a family again, you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that you'll never lie to me again. No matter how much you think you're protecting me, no matter how scary the truth is, promise me we'll face everything together." Sarah squeezed Mark's hand. "I promise. No more secrets. No more lies. From now on, we're a team." Emma jumped up and down on the bed. "Does this mean we're not moving to Oregon? Does this mean we're going to be a family again?" Mark and Sarah looked at each other, and for the first time in 3 years, Sarah saw love in her husband's eyes again. "Yes, Emma," Mark said. "We're going to be a family again." Emma cheered and started bouncing even higher on the bed. But Sarah knew that getting her family back was just the beginning. The real work was still ahead of her. She had to sell her company, find a new job, and prove to Mark and Emma that she really had changed. She had to become the wife and mother she should have been all along. But for the first time in 3 years, Sarah felt hope. Real hope. Because she finally understood what was truly important in life. However, as they sat there in the hotel room, making plans for their new life together, none of them noticed the figure standing outside the window in the darkness. Someone had been watching them. Someone had heard everything. And that someone was about to change everything once again. The knock on the hotel room door came at exactly 2:47 a.m. Sarah knew the time because she had been staring at the clock, unable to sleep despite finally having her family back together. Emma was curled up between her and Mark on the big hotel bed, breathing softly in her sleep. The knocking was urgent, demanding. Mark sat up, instantly alert. "Who could that be at this hour?" Sarah's stomach dropped. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. "Sarah Williams, this is Agent Patricia Hayes with the FBI. Open the door immediately." Sarah's blood turned to ice. The FBI? What could they possibly want? Mark looked at her with confusion and growing alarm. Sarah, what's going on? I I don't know, Sarah whispered, but her mind was racing. Her business dealings had always been completely legal. She had paid every tax, followed every regulation. There was no reason for the FBI to be here. Unless, Mrs. Williams, we know you're in there. We need to speak with you about some very serious financial crimes. Emma stirred in her sleep, making a small whimpering sound. Sarah's protective instincts kicked in immediately. Mark, take Emma into the bathroom. Don't let her hear this. Sarah, what crimes? What are they talking about? The knocking got louder. Mrs. Williams, if you don't open this door, we'll be forced to break it down. Mark gently picked up Emma, who was still mostly asleep, and carried her toward the bathroom. It's okay, sweetheart. Just stay here for a minute. Sarah took a shaky breath and opened the door. 3 FBI agents stood in the hallway, all wearing dark suits despite the early hour. The woman in front, Agent Hayes, was tall and stern-looking with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through Sarah. Mrs. Williams, you need to come with us for questioning. Questioning about what? I haven't done anything wrong. Agent Hayes held up a thick folder. We have evidence that you've been involved in money laundering, tax evasion, and insurance fraud related to medical payments. Sarah felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. That's impossible. Every payment I made was legitimate. May we come in? This conversation would be better had in private. Sarah stepped aside, her hands trembling. The 3 agents entered the small hotel room, making it feel cramped and threatening. Mark came out of the bathroom, having settled Emma back to sleep in the bathtub with pillows and blankets. What's this about? He demanded. Agent Hayes looked between Sarah and Mark. Mr. Williams, were you aware that your wife has been making fraudulent insurance claims for your daughter's medical care? What? Mark's face went white. That's not true. Sarah showed us the bills. She's been paying for Emma's treatments. Oh, she's been paying all right, Agent Hayes said grimly. But she's also been filing false insurance claims to get reimbursed for treatments that never happened. And then she's been using that money to fund her business operations. Sarah felt like she was going to be sick. That's not true. I never filed false claims. I paid for everything myself. Agent Hayes opened her folder and pulled out a stack of papers. These are insurance claims filed under your daughter's name. Claims for treatments that, according to hospital records, never took place. Sarah stared at the papers in shock. They looked official, with Emma's name and their insurance information, but Sarah had never seen them before. I didn't file these claims, she said desperately. Someone else must have done this. Mrs. Williams, these claims were filed from your office computer, using your login credentials. We have digital evidence that traces directly back to you. Mark was reading over Agent Hayes' shoulder, his face getting paler with each page. Sarah, these claims are for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mark, I swear to you, I didn't do this. I never filed any false claims. I paid for Emma's treatments with my own money. Agent Hayes pulled out another set of papers. We also have evidence that you've been inflating the costs of legitimate treatments and pocketing the difference. Sarah's world was spinning. None of this made sense. She had been so careful to pay for everything herself, to never involve insurance except for the small amounts they legitimately covered. Someone is framing me, she said weakly. Mrs. Williams, the evidence is overwhelming. We have computer records, bank transfers, and witness testimony. Witness testimony? From who? Agent Hayes exchanged a look with the other agents. From your business partner, Jennifer Walsh. Sarah felt like she had been hit by lightning. Jennifer? Jennifer gave you testimony against me? She came to us 3 days ago with evidence of your fraudulent activities. She's been cooperating with our investigation. Sarah's mind reeled. Jennifer was her closest friend, her business partner, the person she trusted most in the world. Why would Jennifer betray her? Unless... Agent Hayes, I think Jennifer has been using my computer access to file these claims without my knowledge. She's been embezzling from our company and using Emma's medical condition as a cover. That's a very serious accusation, Mrs. Williams. Do you have any proof? Sarah's heart sank. She didn't have proof. She had trusted Jennifer completely. She had given her full access to all the company computers and financial systems. "No," she admitted. "I don't have proof, but I'm telling you the truth. I never filed false insurance claims." Mark was staring at the papers, and Sarah could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. "Sarah, if this is true, if you really have been committing fraud." "Mark, please, you have to believe me. Everything I told you tonight is true. I was paying for Emma's treatments, but someone else has been using that as a cover for insurance fraud." Agent Hayes closed her folder. "Mrs. Williams, you need to come with us. You're under arrest for insurance fraud, money laundering, and tax evasion." "No!" Sarah backed away from the agents. "You can't arrest me. Emma needs me. She needs her treatment." "Ma'am, please don't make this harder than it needs to be." Mark stepped forward. "How long will she be in jail?" "If convicted, she could face 15 to 20 years in federal prison." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. 15 to 20 years. Emma would be an adult by the time Sarah got out. She would miss her daughter's entire childhood. "Please," Sarah begged. "Let me prove my innocence. Give me a chance to show you that Jennifer is the real criminal here." "You'll have your chance to present your defense in court," Agent Hayes said, pulling out handcuffs. As the cold metal closed around Sarah's wrists, she looked at Mark desperately. "Mark, you have to believe me. You have to take care of Emma. Make sure she gets her treatment." Mark's face was a mask of confusion and pain. "Sarah, I don't know what to believe anymore." "Believe that I love you. Believe that I love Emma. Believe that everything I did was for our family." The agents began leading Sarah toward the door. As they passed the bathroom, Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Mommy, where are you going?" Sarah's heart shattered into a million pieces. "I have to go away for a little while, baby, but I'll be back. I promise I'll be back." "But you just came back," Emma said, starting to cry. "You promised you wouldn't leave me again." "I know, sweetheart. I know. But sometimes things happen that are out of our control. Daddy will take care of you, and I'll come back as soon as I can." The agents were pulling her toward the door now. Sarah looked back at Mark one last time. "Mark, please don't give up on me. Please don't let Emma forget that her mommy loves her." And then she was gone, led away in handcuffs while her daughter cried and her husband stood frozen in shock. 3 months later, Sarah sat in her jail cell, staring at a letter from Mark. It was the first communication she had received from him since her arrest. "Sarah, I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I've made a decision. I'm taking Emma to Oregon after all. I can't put her through this uncertainty any longer. The lawyers say your trial could take years. Even if you're found innocent, the damage is done. Emma needs stability, and I need to protect her from all of this chaos. I've found doctors in Oregon who can treat Emma's condition. It won't be the experimental treatment you wanted to pay for, but it will keep her stable. I want you to know that I do believe you didn't commit those crimes. I think you're telling the truth about Jennifer framing you. But believing in your innocence doesn't change the fact that our lives have been destroyed. Emma asks about you every day. I tell her that Mommy is fighting to come home. But I don't know how long I can keep telling her that. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm sorry it ended this way. Mark. P.S. Emma wanted me to include this drawing for you." Sarah unfolded a piece of paper that had been tucked into the letter. It was a drawing of a family, the same stick figures Emma had drawn years before, but this time, the mommy figure was behind bars. At the top, Emma had written, "I still love you, Mommy. Please come home soon." Sarah clutched the drawing to her chest and sobbed. She had finally understood what was truly important in life, but she had learned it too late. Her attempts to save her family had ultimately destroyed them. But as she sat there in her cell, holding Emma's drawing, Sarah made a promise to herself. She would prove her innocence. She would expose Jennifer's crimes. And she would find her way back to Emma, no matter how long it took. She had lost everything once because she chose the wrong priorities. She wouldn't make that mistake again. The next morning, Sarah's lawyer came to visit with unexpected news. "Sarah, We may have caught a break in your case. Sarah looked up hopefully. What kind of break? Jennifer Walsh has been arrested. Sarah's heart leaped. For what? For running the exact same insurance fraud scheme with 3 other companies. It turns out you weren't her only victim. She's been using her position as a business partner to file false claims using her partner's credentials. So you can prove I'm innocent? It's looking very promising. Jennifer's been using the same computer techniques and filing false claims under multiple identities. The pattern is clear. She's been the mastermind all along. Sarah felt hope flooding through her body for the first time in months. How long before I can get out of here? If everything goes well, we could have you released within a few weeks. Jennifer is cooperating with authorities now in exchange for a lighter sentence. She's admitting to everything. Sarah closed her eyes and whispered a prayer of gratitude. There was still a chance. There was still hope that she could get her family back. But even as relief washed over her, Sarah knew that proving her innocence was only the first step. The real challenge would be convincing Mark to give her another chance and rebuilding Emma's trust after breaking yet another promise. She had learned the hard way that success without family was meaningless. Now she had to learn whether love could survive the ultimate test of betrayal and loss. As her lawyer left, Sarah looked out the small window of her cell at the gray sky beyond. Somewhere out there, Emma was starting a new life in Oregon, probably wondering why her mommy had broken her promise to never leave again. But Sarah wasn't giving up. She had made too many mistakes to count, but she had one more chance to get things right. One more chance to prove that a mother's love could overcome any obstacle. One more chance to choose family over everything else. And this time, she wouldn't waste it. 6 months later, Sarah stood outside a small house in Portland, Oregon, holding Emma's drawing and a folder full of legal documents proving her innocence. She had been cleared of all charges, Jennifer was in prison, and Sarah had sold her company just as she had promised. But would Mark and Emma give her one final chance to be the mother and wife she should have been all along? Sarah took a deep breath, walked up to the front door, and knocked. The door opened, and Emma's face appeared. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Emma smiled, the same bright, forgiving smile that had melted Sarah's heart from the very beginning. "Mommy," she whispered, "you came back." "I promised I would," Sarah said, kneeling down to Emma's level. "And this time, I'm never leaving again." Emma threw her arms around Sarah's neck, and Sarah held her daughter tight, breathing in the sweet scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood dreams. Mark appeared in the doorway behind Emma, his face cautious but hopeful. "Sarah, how are you here?" "I'm free, Mark. I proved my innocence." Jennifer confessed to everything. Mark's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank God." Sarah stood up, still holding Emma's hand. "Mark, I know I've broken your trust more times than I can count. I know words aren't enough anymore. But if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I've changed, that I understand what's really important now." Mark looked at her for a long moment, then at Emma, who was looking up at both her parents with hopeful eyes. "Sarah, we're going to need time, a lot of time, and things are going to have to be different. I know, and they will be. I sold my company, just like I promised. I'm ready to start over, with a regular job and regular hours. I'm ready to be the mother Emma deserves and the wife you deserve." Emma tugged on Sarah's hand. "Mommy, are you going to live with us now?" Sarah looked at Mark questioningly. Mark sighed, then stepped aside to let them in. "We'll take it one day at a time, Emma, one day at a time." As Sarah walked into the house, she saw that Mark had kept all of Emma's artwork on the refrigerator, including several drawings of their family with a space where the mommy figure should be. Sarah had lost everything in her pursuit of success, then lost it all again when that success was revealed to be built on someone else's lies. But standing in this small house in Oregon, holding her daughter's hand while her husband cautiously led her back into their lives, Sarah finally understood what true success looked like. Success wasn't about money or recognition or being the best at anything. Success was about being present for the people you love every single day, no matter what. And for the first time in her life, Sarah was finally ready to be truly successful.